guys, welcome back to my channel. I hope you've all had a wonderful day. Today's video we're going to be talking about books, and more specifically we're going to be talking about all the books that I read in 2023. Sorry it's taken me a little while to get this video filmed and out to you guys. I had to go through my Goodreads, my reading journal, and kind of collate all the information because I kind of gave up filling in my reading journal towards the end of last year. So it didn't have all the information I needed. So originally, at the start of the year, I set my Goodreads goal to 60 books, I believe. And then I got halfway through the year and was like, yeah, I'm doing really well. And I updated my Goodreads goal to 80 books. Wildly overestimated how well I was doing, and crashed and burned, only reading 58 by the end of the year. However, I was closer to my original goal of 60 than I thought I was going to get. So yeah, I did pretty well. I'm pretty proud of that. A lot of the books I read I do not own. They were kind of a little bit of Libby. Kindle Unlimited really drew me in towards the end with an offer they put on just before Christmas. But yeah, I'm going to be talking about the books I read. So I am going to put here somewhere like a little screen recording of my Goodreads so you can have a quick glance of the books I read while I'm talking about them. Yeah, let's get into it. So in January I read excuse me. In January I read 5 books. So I read The Trials of Morrigan Crow by Jessica Townsend. It's a really lovely middle grade. I'm waiting for the next one to come out on Libby so I can access it, but I really enjoyed it. I did only give it 3 stars, but I loved it. I thought it was really, really good, and I could see myself rereading in the future. Next up was Queen of Shadows by Sarah J Maas. That is part of the Throne of Glass series that me and Nikki were buddy reading last year. I gave it 5 stars. I believe I gave all of her books 5 stars last year because they really drew me in and then broke my heart. So yeah, there was that one. I read Holly Hepburn's Picture House by the Sea. I gave that 3 stars. I have to say, looking back, I haven't really enjoyed any of her books since A Year at the Star and Sixpence. That was my favourite and I have kept it and I have loved it, but all the others that I owned by Holly Hepburn after reading The Picture House by the Sea, I have now since unhauled or decluttered, whatever term you want to use. I just didn't really find her writing pulled me in as much anymore. But it was a good book. If you like that kind of romance where not a lot happens, but life happens, her books will probably really interest you. I do have 4 I have on my Vinted at the moment, if anyone is interested in those. So there's that. I read Paige Toon's The Longest Holiday. I gave that 4 stars. I didn't realise when I started reading it that I should have read Chasing Daisy before that, as it kind of gives you a bit of an insight into The Longest Holiday. But I do read Chasing Daisy later in the year, so there's that. I also read in January Jessica Verde's The Hollow, which is a sort of teen favourite of mine. I absolutely adored it, and rereading it I remembered why I loved it so much. I did only give it 4 stars because you can tell it's that kind of teen writing style, but I adored it. I loved it. I enjoyed being back in that kind of memory time of when I read it years ago. So yes, I read 5 in January. February went a bit by the wayside. I planned to read a lot more and only finished 3. I read Colleen Hoover's Verity, which absolutely blew my mind. I gave it 4 stars and then lent it to my friend immediately, and I have not had it back since. And I'm really sad about it because it's just kind of affirmed my belief in not lending books to people, because I have not seen this one since. I asked her about it and she was like, it got really badly damaged in my house move. And she was like, I'll buy you another one. And it hasn't happened. And I've kind of, I'm holding on to it, but I'm letting it go at the same time. At some point, if I see Verity secondhand, I will pick it up. But yes, it has affirmed my belief to never lend books to your friends unless you specifically know they're going to take really good care of them. I didn't know that she wasn't going to. So yes, I shan't be lending her a book in the future. But I did love Verity, and I could see myself rereading it at some point. Next up was Beth O'Leary's The Road Trip. I didn't love it as much as I loved The Flat Share, but I did enjoy it. I gave it 4 stars. I could see myself rereading it. I do have it in a hardback copy, and if I see it secondhand somewhere, I would like to pick it up in paperback. Yeah, it was a good one. I liked it. And then finally, I read Jessica Verde's The Haunted, which is the second book in the Hollow series. And I gave that 5 stars. I really, really enjoyed that one. I think that was probably my favourite out of the 3. So there's that. Then March, I read another 3 books. I read the final book in that series called The Hidden. And I haven't apparently given it a star rating in my journal, so I don't know what I gave it on Goodreads. But basically, the Hollow series follows a girl called Abby, whose best friend passes away, and she meets Caspian in a graveyard, and it all kind of goes from there. It's kind of spooky, but lovely. It's just thoroughly enjoyable. And then I finished off, or no, I didn't finish. I continued reading the Anne Cleeves Vera series. I'd kind of been working my way through those last year, and I read Harbour Street and The Mothcatcher, and I really enjoyed those. I have since unhauled all my Vera books. They were kind of ones that I really enjoyed, but I know I'm not going to reread, so I didn't mind letting those go. But I do have a few more that I believe I finished throughout the year before I obviously unhauled them. Now, April, I did really well. I read 8 books in April, and I think this is about the time where I thought I'll pick up my Goodreads goal. I read Empire of Storms by Sarah J Maas. Is that the last book in the series? I think it might be. I'm not sure. Off the top of my head, my brain is... It's not here. No, it's not. I don't think it is. Or maybe it is. I don't know. Or is Tower of Dawn the last one? I can't remember. Anyway, I read Empire of Storms by Sarah J Maas, and I really enjoyed it. I gave it 5 stars. I also read In the Time We Lost by Carrie Hope Fletcher, and I didn't love it. I really didn't love it. I gave it 2 stars. It wasn't what I was expecting from the book. I didn't like the ending, and I actually found the concept of it really difficult to grasp until I figured out what was going on, because I'd read a few other people's Goodreads reviews. So I have since unhauled that one as well. I read Evermore by Alison Noel. That's the first book in a 6-book series, and I haven't read any more of them since. I did really enjoy it, but they are still on my shelves. I don't know if they're going to be a series I continue with, but I gave it 4 stars, so I must have liked it a bit. It was a bit Twilighty though, I have to be honest. It's kind of, girl's a bit out of the ordinary, she doesn't fit in with everybody else, boy turns up, and it was a science lesson as well, and I was a bit like, oh gosh, here we go. But I did enjoy it. I had a different concept to Twilight in the end, but still along a similar vein. So there's that. Anne Cleeves' The Darkest Evening, I gave that 3 stars. I think that was the final one I read. Obviously, I have no idea, but I'm pretty sure that's the final one I read. And I kind of resigned myself to the fact that I didn't really enjoy the Vera books in the end. I liked the mysteries. They were really good, but I didn't like the description of the main character, Vera. I found it a little bit, I don't know, it just didn't sit right with me. It was very kind of, she's dumpy, she's ugly, she's not attractive. Everyone kind of thinks like that. And I didn't like that. I didn't like that as a description of a person. So yeah, I kind of, that they were my reasonings for not enjoying it as much, I think, because every time someone was describing their first meeting of Vera, it wasn't complimentary at all. And I just didn't like it. And especially if you've watched Vera on the television, is it Brenda Blethyn that plays her? She's lovely, and she really captures kind of who I feel Vera should be. And I just didn't like the description of her in the books. I know the books came first, but still, I didn't enjoy it. So yeah, I've kind of decided that I'm just going to watch the series with her. I really enjoy them, so there's that. I read Jacqueline Wilson's Baby Love, and I gave that 4 stars. I actually found it really heart-wrenching. I really enjoyed it. I'm definitely going to reread it at some point, but it follows a young girl who gets pregnant in the 70s, I believe, and she's only a teenager, barely a teenager, and she didn't really know how it happened. She didn't really understand it all, and it's kind of about the process that she went through being a teenage mum at that time. So yeah, I really enjoyed it, and I highly recommend, actually. It's just kind of Jacqueline Wilson for the older generation, but I really enjoyed it. Next, I read The Animals of Farthingwood by Colin Dann. I gave it 3 stars. It was a thing I used to watch on telly when I was a child, and when I saw it come up on Libby as a suggested read, I was like, you know what, why not? And I really enjoyed it. I liked being back in that world with the characters that I knew from when I was younger, but it did only get 3 stars. Next up was Flesh, Which Is Not Flesh by Jessica Verde. I gave it 3 stars because I wanted so much more from it. It was like a little novella, and it's definitely something I would consider rereading in the future, but I wanted more from it. I don't know if she's planning on writing anything else around that world. I actually don't know how old it is, but I really liked it. It was like a mystery, and I feel like I can't remember enough of it to give you guys a really good description of what it's about, but I know I really enjoyed it. So yeah, there's that. And then finally, in April, I read The Lucky One by Nicholas Sparks, and it is the last book that I read by him because I unhauled them all. I only gave it 3 stars, and I enjoyed it, don't get me wrong, but it dragged. It really dragged, and I realised that I actually didn't love his writing as much as I thought I did. Safe Haven is my favourite book by him, and I will continue to reread it for years to come. But I went on like a spree of collecting all his books when I found them secondhand. And I just found the more I read each one, I just really didn't enjoy his writing style or the slow burn romance that comes with his books. I really struggled with it. So I passed them on to a lovely lady off eBay, I think. I'd had them priced really low, and because I just wanted to get rid of them, and she was really excited to have them, so I was glad that somebody else could enjoy them. So yeah, there's that. May, I did really well with as well. I read 10 books in May. Some of them are shorter, but I'll get into those. So I read Chasing Daisy by Paige Toon, which was a 3-star book, and that's the one I mentioned earlier that I probably should have read before The Longest Holiday, because something happens in The Longest Holiday, and then if you haven't already read Chasing Daisy, it kind of ruins Chasing Daisy for you. So yeah, that's what happened to me. I read Longest Holiday first, and then by the time I got to Chasing Daisy, it was kind of like, oh, that's awkward. So some of her characters do kind of mix in, but Paige Toon is still one of my favourite authors, and I will still continue to buy every book she releases. So yeah, I did enjoy it. I found Daisy really kind of irritating, which is why I only got 3 stars, but I did enjoy the book. Next up, I read Wondersmith and Hollowpox by Jessica Townsend. They were the next books in the Trials of Morrigan Crow series. I must be waiting on the 4th one to come out then, but I did like them. I gave them both 3 stars, and yeah, they're kind of a little bit Harry Potter, like she's the chosen child kind of thing, and stuff happens to her, but I just really enjoyed them. I thought they were really good. Then next up, I read the Lost Boys series by Nikki St. Crow, and they are basically smut retellings of Peter Pan. So Peter Pan sends Wendy back to the real world, and every time Wendy has a daughter, that darling is brought to Neverland to help him find something that is lost. And they are heavily smut, heavily smut, but I so enjoyed them. I downloaded them all off Kindle Unlimited and read them all within the space of like a week and a half. I was obsessed. I've now since bought them on Kindle because the smut was great, but the storyline was good as well. And I really enjoyed reading a book that has the smut in it, but the storyline is so good. You're reading it for that as well. It's not just all smut. So yeah, they were really, really good. I gave them all 4 stars. And yeah, I just thought they were great. I think she is writing another 1 or 2. And they're not out yet, but I really liked where the story took us, the characters we come into contact with. They were just great. I highly recommend. So that's them. I read Jessica Verde's The Beautiful and the Damned. It's like a spin-off to the Hollow series, and I didn't know it existed. I do now own the book. It was a trial to get a hold of. I think I had to order it from... I think I ordered it from America, actually, or it kind of come from American stock, basically, but I had to pay some kind of tax to get it here, and it was expensive. So, yeah, I'm glad I've got it, and I really enjoyed it, and I'm kind of hoping that there would be more from it, but I don't actually think Jessica Verde is writing anymore. I'm not sure. If anyone knows and could let me know, that'd be great, but I haven't heard anything from her for years, so I'm guessing at the moment she isn't. I haven't heavily looked into it, but if anyone knows off the top of their head or wants to have a Google search, then please let me know. Yeah, I really enjoyed that one. And then finally, for May, I read Heartstopper Volume 3 and 4, and I gave them both 4 stars. I absolutely love the story of Nick and Charlie. I think it's incredible. I can't wait for season 3 to come out on Netflix. I am ready. And yeah, I just really love them. I think it's a really lovely way of kind of introducing 2 characters that are coming to grips with their sexuality and kind of all their friends around them that are going through similar things at the same time. And it's a really heartwarming story. I really recommend. So June, I read Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone. I gave it 5 stars. I really loved being back in that world. I haven't read the book since I was 15 or 16. So I have begun my rereading journey. Some books have taken longer than others, but I'm on this journey. So yes, I really enjoyed being back with Harry in that world. So it's really good. Next up, I read, so this was actually a bit of a reread month for me. I read a lot of Michelle Harrison's books. They were books I read as a teenager and have loved, and then she wrote some new ones recently, which I have now read. I read them a couple of years ago, I think, in a buddy read. And I reread them again in June. So I read One Wish, The 13 Treasures, 13 Curses, and 13 Secrets, all by her. So they're the stories of Tanya, and it's all fairies and mystery. And I love those stories. I think they're incredible, and I highly recommend them to anyone with a teenager or anyone that enjoys fairies with a bit of a middle grade touch to them. Yeah, they're really good. I think they are going to be books that stay on my shelves forever, and I just continue to reread. I also read Assassin's Blade by Sarah J Maas, gave that 5 stars. It's like the mini novella one, which has little bits and bobs that kind of link up the other stories, which I really liked. I liked the fact that she had all these elements that when you then got to the final book, it was like, oh my gosh, this makes so much more sense of how she knows all these people throughout the story. I kind of want to reread Throne of Glass all over again, but I know I need to get on to A Court of Thorns and Roses, and I will. Just give me time. And then finally in June, I read A Pinch of Magic, which is Michelle Harrison's newest series, and that follows witches, 3 witches, all sisters, and yeah, it was really good. I loved it. Same again with July. July was kind of a reread month. I read Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets, gave it 5 stars. Really loved it, flew through it. I read Tales of Beedle the Bard by J.K. Rowling as well. Again, flew through it, loved it. I read it physically and while I was listening to the audiobook as well, which was really nice. I also read A Sprinkle of Sorcery, which is the second book in the A Pinch of Magic series, and I gave that 4 stars. And then I read Tower of Dawn by Sarah J Maas, and I believe that is the last one. No, it's not. It's Kingdom of Ash. I've seen it now. Ignore me. I know you're all sat there watching it going, what are you talking about? We all know what the last one is. Yeah, Tower of Dawn was 5 stars as well. Really, really enjoyed it. Right, August. I read 1 book. This is where it starts to lull, kind of, towards the end of the year. Because I got married in September. So in the kind of month and a bit leading up to it, everything went out of the window. But I read Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros. I gave it 5 stars. I was obsessed. I sort of saw the hype throughout the year and was kind of like, oh, I don't really know if Dragons is going to be for me. Dragons is for me. I loved it. I thought it was incredible. And I had it on audiobook from Libby, and I am currently patiently waiting for it to come out in paperback so I can buy it. But I loved it. Thought it was incredible. And if you don't think it's for you, read it, because it might be. I really enjoyed it. Next up, I read... it was September, isn't it? So in September, I read 2 books. I finished Kingdom of Ash by Sarah J Maas. I gave it 5 stars. It broke my heart. I had, I reckon, a good week where I just couldn't concentrate on anything else. All my brain thoughts were taken up with what happened in that book. The finale, the characters, just everything. And it had a happy-ish ending. Some of it was really sad. I cried a lot. And then just couldn't get over it. For about a week and a bit, I could not get over it. So I delved into a comfort read for me. It was a book, it's probably the books that got me into reading. I've probably mentioned them before, but they were The Field Guide, The Spiderwick Chronicles by Toni DiTerlizzi and Holly Black. And I reread them every couple of years or so from time to time, just because they're a real comfort read for me. I know what to expect. I know I enjoy the story, and I just love it. So I gave The Field Guide 5 stars, and then I continued reading them in October. October, I apparently did quite well. I finished the Spiderwick Chronicles. I read The Sea and Stone, Lucinda's Secret, The Ironwood Tree, and The Wrath of Morgrath. And I don't know what star rating I gave them. I imagine it was 5 stars. But yeah, they were a complete comfort reread for me, like a de-stress from the wedding. After that was done, it was kind of like, right now we can just chill, we can relax, we can read whatever we want. So I continued on with my comfort reads and finished those. Then whilst we were on honeymoon, I took with me the Hexapeel, and I couldn't get through it. It wasn't enjoyable for me. I couldn't like get in tune with the characters. I wasn't interested. And we went on a cruise for our honeymoon, and on the cruise they had a library. It was like a little, if I've got a picture of it, I shall insert it here. But they had a picture of the library. I have a picture of the library. They had a library on the cruise ship, and there were books that you could borrow and obviously return throughout your journey, and you could obviously leave behind if you'd brought one with you and you didn't want to take it home. And I picked up All the Bright Places by Jennifer Niven. What a mistake! It was such an emotional, heart-wrenching book, and I read it on my honeymoon, which is meant to be a really lovely, happy time. And I read this book, and the only way I can describe it was, just so beautifully sad. I've watched the film recently. I had meant to watch it, and I wasn't sure I was going to be a fan of the 2 main characters. So I kind of put it off for ages, and in the end I really enjoyed the film. snot cried at the film as well. But the book is just so much more horrifically sad. The details are so much more than they give in the film. And it's just, yeah. I think I gave it 4 stars. And it was lovely. Don't get me wrong, it was lovely. It had some beautiful quotes. But yeah, it broke me. It was sad. Dre was like, why are you reading that if you know it's going to be sad? And I was like, because I know I've got it on my shelves at home. And that was what kind of drew me to it on the ship, was because I knew I had it at home. So I knew I wasn't reading a new book, if that makes sense. I was reading a book that I already had, I just didn't have with me, that I knew I wanted to actually read at some point. So I kind of achieved a goal in reading one off my shelves while I was away. But it was really, really good. It does obviously have some trigger warnings for like suicide and like death and stuff like that. So if you're not sure you can read those topics, then I probably would say it's not the book for you. But if you can get through that, I highly recommend. I think it's a really good book. It's really deep and meaningful and thought-provoking, and I really enjoyed it. So yeah, there's that. And then I read Rochelle Mead's Vampire Academy. Me and Nikki were buddy reading it towards the end of last year. I'm going to continue on with my buddy read because I'm going to continue on reading them. Me and Nikki are going to do a new buddy read next month. I'm not going to tell you what it is, but I'm very excited about it. So we're going to be reading that book in February. But I'm going to continue on with the Vampire Academy series. It's another reread for me. I haven't read them since I was at college, and I really want to crack on and get through them. But yeah, I really enjoyed Vampire Academy, and it was nice to kind of be back with those characters that I knew, but to also revisit things that I'd totally forgotten as well, which was really nice. I also read Bella Mackey's How to Kill Your Family, and I don't know if I've got it about. Here it is. God, dropping everything. Now, I'd seen this book everywhere, and I'd picked it up in the works. I think I took Dre in there for my birthday in March and was like, can I just pick a few books for my birthday? And that's kind of all I want. And he was like, yeah, just pick whatever you want and then let's get out of here. And I picked this one up, and I didn't really think, oh, I'm going to enjoy it. But my God, it was gripping. I was obsessed. I couldn't put it down. I even downloaded it on the Libby app on my phone, so that when I was laying in bed and I didn't want to get hand cramp, I could just read it on my phone. I finished it within a couple of days. I was obsessed. It's basically just about a girl called Grace who lives with her mum until her mum passes away, and then she finds out all this information about the dad that never wanted to know her, and she goes off and around basically bumping off her dad's side of the family, and it was just so good. And like, I mean, Sunday Times Style has put compulsive. It really was. It was just, yeah, it was funny. It was very twisted, but I highly recommend reading it. It was really, really good. So yeah, there's that one. Look out for it. It was great. I did see another copy of it recently, and like in the works, funny enough. They had the pink version, which I obviously have, and they had like a turquoisey version that was just beautiful. And part of me wanted to buy it just so that I had another version. And then part of me was like, you don't need to, just put it back. But if the turquoisey one had been there originally, I'd have probably bought that one over the pink version. But yeah, it's great. So good. Just read it. I really recommend. Then November rolled around and I read 4 books. I read Iron Flame by Rebecca Yarros. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I gave it 5 stars. I could not put it down. It was on Libby audiobook for me. I was like 102 in line when it first came out, I think. And it was like 28 hours long or something silly. And I was forcing myself to like be reading it every day, because you only get a certain amount of days on Libby to read it. And I'd forgotten about it for like a week or two. I'd forgotten about it, and then when I remembered, I was like, oh my god, I need to finish this before it goes back to Libby, otherwise I'm not going to be able to finish it in time, because there were so many people in the queue behind me. I was like, every time I like did a 5-minute journey down the road, or you know, on my way to work, which is only a 15-minute journey, it was on. I was listening to it all the time. I was obsessed. But yeah, I highly recommend. Thought it was great. It was really nice. I'm not happy with the ending at all. I'm waiting for the third one to come out because I'm not happy with how it ended, and I need to know what happens now. When I finished it, it was one of those jaw-dropping moments where you're just like, oh my god, I can't believe we've been left like this. So yeah, I'm waiting for the next one to come out. Really looking forward to it already. Next up, I read Beyond the Wand by Tom Felton. It had kind of been on my radar for a while, and it wasn't one I thought, oh yeah, I really need to read that. But I'm so glad I did. I really, really enjoyed it. So basically, if you don't know, Tom Felton plays Malfoy in the Harry Potter films. And it's kind of talking about his life on and off the Harry Potter set, what he did before Harry Potter, what he's now doing after Harry Potter. And kind of his life throughout it, which I don't think we really think about. When we look at actors and things, I don't think a lot of us really think about what their life must be like off screen. And it was really nice to have his kind of insight into what his was like. Yeah, it was really good. I recommend it. If you enjoy Harry Potter and you're interested in his side of things or his story, then I highly recommend checking it out. I also read Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban in November. It took me a really long time to read Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban. I don't know what happened. I don't know if it drags. I'm not sure. But it just took me a while. It was one of them ones that I really wanted to read and I was enjoying. It just wasn't one that I picked up every time I had a reading opportunity. Next up, I read H.D. Carlton's Satan's Affair. And what an absolute mind that was. Like, I cannot describe to you how oddly bizarre that book was. Like, it... mind blown. The ending, mind blown. Did I enjoy it? Yes I did. Should I have? Probably not, but I did. It was really good. It was nice to kind of know Sibby before you get to Haunting Adeline. So yeah, it was good. It was weird, but good. So then in December, I read Haunting Adeline and Hunting Adeline by H.D. Carlton. Haunting Adeline, I loved. I really enjoyed it. There were obviously aspects of it, if you've heard anything about it, that make you sort of think, oh, this is, you know, but I really enjoyed it. I liked it. I apparently like that kind of genre for smut. It was really good. I really enjoyed it. However, when I got to Hunting Adeline, it was horrible. Like, it was a compelling read, don't get me wrong. It was a compelling read. I really enjoyed seeing what happened to our two main characters. But I didn't enjoy what happened to our main character. It was a really kind of painful reading experience, but it was interesting to know what happens and how... it's so difficult to describe this without giving it away. If you've read it, you'll know what I mean. It's one of those books that is really good and you enjoyed the reading experience because it was interesting, but what happens to the character is so horrible that at times it's difficult to read. I enjoyed the ending. The ending was really good. I liked the wrap up, but the middle kind of section was hard going, and I wasn't sure kind of how I felt about some of the themes in that, even though they happen on a day-to-day basis all around the world. It was difficult reading, but Haunting Adeline I loved and I really enjoyed. So yeah, it was a see what I mean. I also read Heartstopper number 5. I have to say though, I didn't feel like an awful lot happened. And that was a little bit disappointing for me. I wasn't overly keen on that. And then I read 2 Christmas books. I read The 12 Days of Christmas by Debbie Macoma. This is probably one of my favourite Christmas books of all time. It's lovely. It's about Julia, who goes to kill her neighbour with kindness over the Christmas period. And they fall in love. We all know it happens. And it's just glorious. I love it. I could read it again now, to be fair. It's only 227 pages and it's just brilliant. I loved it. It's really great. There's that. And then I read There's Something About Christmas, also by Debbie Macoma. And I didn't love that one as much. It was good, but I just didn't love it as much as I kind of hoped I would. But yeah, they are all the books I read throughout 2023. There were some real standout ones for me. Bear with me a minute. Let me just find my list of standout ones. They are standout because I do remember them, but I don't remember the ones I wrote down. So give me a second. Kingdom of Ash, the final book in the Throne of Glass series, was incredible. I had all the feels. I was also reading it back on I was reading it the last sort of 100 pages. I was reading on the way back from Scotland. I went on a trip with my family, and there is nothing more painful than crying snot tears in front of your family in a car over a book. And it got dark in the car, so I was trying to read with my torchlight on my phone, but also trying not to distract my dad, who was driving. So that one really stood out for me. How to Kill Your Family by Bella Mackie was incredible. I loved it. And then, yeah, I would say, I've got to be honest, I would say probably The Fourth Wing and Iron Flame really stood out for me. I also really loved Haunting Adeline. I thought it was great. And the Lost Boys series are probably the ones that stood out for me the most, I would say. But all in all, I think I had a pretty good reading year. It wasn't necessarily the goal amount I was searching for with my 80 books. That just wasn't going to go to plan. But I really enjoyed the books I did read. If you guys have any recommendations or you have any thoughts or feelings on the books I read, then I would love you to share them with me. And yeah, let's talk about books, because why not? But yeah, it was great. I had a great reading year in 2023. I'm sorry this video was so long. If you didn't get yourself a cup of tea, I'm sorry. Maybe I should have pre-warned you before starting, but I honestly didn't think it was going to be this long. Yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I hope you enjoyed hearing about the books I read. I hope maybe I've given you some inspiration for ones to read this year. Yeah, that's all from me. Take care, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.